we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about some of the multidimensional energetic anatomy that's happening in your body. And so by now, I think pretty much everyone out there has heard of your chakra system, or you've heard the word chakra. You might have heard of the meridians or the nadio complex, or, you know, just some of the other elements of energetic circuitry or anatomy in the body. And so we're just going to talk about a couple of areas in our energy body that are changing. And I'm going to move my little camera down here so I can see the stuff as well. But as we continue to shift into fourth density during this physical incarnation, you guys, we need to be aware of some of the ways in which our chakras, our meridians, and other energy centers are changing. And so if you can check over here, I'm going to get my little pointer out. Where's my little pointer? There it is. We're going to start looking at some areas on the energy body that you need to be aware of. Like I mentioned in the beginning, as we were rambling on and on about the energy body and the traditional kind of human structure, what we understand right now, we have about 7 primary chakras. The reality is we have incredible amounts. I don't know how many there are. I tend to work with what I've identified, what I've learned with, and, you know, what I understand the energy frequency of. And so there are a myriad of layers, energy centers, gateways, kind of pathways in the body. Some of them I think are even individual, and they'll be different from what other people have. But for most intents and purposes right now, we understand the human body is comprised of 7 primary chakras: the root, the base, which, you know, comprises of survival instincts, physical needs; the sacral chakra, emotional, sexuality, creativity, fire of creation; the solar plexus, which is, you know, personal power, like it says here. And thank you to whoever, you know, whatever random person made this graphic that I pulled off of Google Images. Thank you. You did a pretty good job. The solar plexus is also one of the activation points for that multidimensional intuition that comes on at certain times of our life. The solar plexus will give you that literal gut body check when you get information that needs to be made, that you need to be made aware of. It can be positive, it can be negative. But the solar plexus is a really hot area for people right now. And we're going to be talking about a couple of others. But when we kind of move through the gateways of multidimensional activation and begin to develop, you know, what some people call, you know, the light body, elements of our energy body, as we begin to move Kundalini energy up the spine, we begin to activate and kind of flood certain energy centers. And right now, a large amount of us in this community, we have big bubbles of old energy in the solar plexus, big bubbles of ancestral energy, stuff that we came in with, our parents' stuff, our family stuff, past life stuff, all kind of hanging out in the center of your body. I guarantee you there's a few of you that even as I'm talking about this, you're getting a little bit of a stirring sensation down there. It's getting a little bit intense. The solar plexus holds a lot of our ancestral and kind of multi-lifetime cellular memory. And you know, we're not going to talk too much about the psoas today, you guys, but that's another area, another muscle in the body that holds a tremendous amount of, you know, cellular memory. But the solar plexus, this is a big deal. And so as the solar plexus continues to activate, in the law of one, they call that the yellow ray activation. As that moves up and we go into green ray, or that heart chakra, that's where we begin to experience different types of activations, different types of sensations in the body, different types of connections with ourselves and others. And so right now, you know, that heart chakra for a lot of people is in a state of healing. The heart chakra for a lot of people sometimes feels like a bruised element of your body, constantly being assaulted or hit or pushed. And so a lot of people have tenderness. They're in need of healing there. And for one of the reasons for that, as odd as it is, and let's move up just a little bit, you guys, the high heart chakra, also called the thymic chakra. This is an interesting place, and this is going to be one of our primary stopping points in the energy work that we're doing today, because we really need to be made aware of the high heart chakra, or the thymic chakra, in your 4D astral body. As we go through series of activations in which new dimensional layers of the body start opening up, this high heart chakra right in the top of your chest, right at the thymus, is incredibly important, especially when we begin to kind of step into what we would call that mission, quote unquote, that next stage of you. A lot of people in this lifetime are going to have these sort of jumping off points where we're literally transform ourselves into a new version of ourselves. As the higher heart or the thymic chakra activates, we begin to integrate, accept, expand, and especially move energy up, 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 up to the very top, you guys, right here, the soul star chakra. The high heart or thymic chakra and the soul star chakra have very interesting and particular interactivity. They're part of a higher dimensional kind of activation complex that I believe Lisa Renee talks about in some of her writing, but there's quite literally a lamniscate, or kind of, you know, one of those infinity waves. You know, it kind of has that like figure 8 design. It's difficult for me to make with this little red dot, you guys, but there is a literal wave and movement of energy that passes from the soul star chakra down to that high heart chakra and back. As we begin to activate layers of the 4th dimensional body, meaning as we begin to move our energy outside of the physical realm, these chakras right here begin to play an incredibly important role in allowing us to receive and integrate multi-dimensional downloads, multi-dimensional information. And so what happens for us is that we have to go through an additional activation of these chakras as well, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And that's quite a process for a lot of people right now. Why is that? Because we are quite literally living in a society that's fed weaponized food, heavy metals, toxic amounts of chemicals constantly. And a lot of those were quite literally designed to block your third eye, designed to build up in the upper chakras and the layers, the dimensional layers in the upper areas of the body to stop you from receiving, to stop you from sending, creating these dense layers of energy, especially around the sides of your head and some of the meridian structures that we're going to be talking about there. This is like an antenna up here, you guys. If you can see my little pointer again, you literally have an etheric antenna at the top of your head, moving around and around and around. And as you go through these layers of activation, dimensional energy enters your body. People get stuck in these areas. More people right now are getting stuck in the throat chakra. And we'll be talking about, you know, specifically what does it mean when you're stuck in the throat chakra. That's kind of a whole other workshop. But for a lot of us, that throat chakra is what expands and opens up when we're able to really begin expressing our truth in a whole new way. And in a day and age in which you can't even post on Facebook about what's happening in the world without getting slammed by people. And, you know, that affects that throat chakra energy. And yes, I'm using social media as a primary example of one of the ways in which we transfer energy. But the throat chakra extends to not only what we're expressing, you know, in written form, but it's verbal, it's energetic. For those of you guys that have done readings or clearings with me, the throat chakra energy extends to everything from the way you send energy, to the way you receive energy, to the way you present yourself in this physical world, all the way down to the expression that you hold on your face. So throat chakra is incredibly important as we activate into the higher levels of our multi-dimensionality. Just as is down here, let's go all the way down to the bottom, to this guy down here, the Earth Star Chakra. Very, very interesting thing, completely overlooked. I actually discovered this by accident in some of my own work and by other people kind of pointing me to this disc or this field of energy underneath my body. And so right now, as we're beginning to expand in that high heart chakra, the solar plexus comes online, sending energy up through these multi-dimensional kind of seals through the body. And we reach that soul star chakra, we begin to receive and interact with the layers of the dimensional body in totally new ways. We begin to get these downloads, new waves of activity, ideas, inspiration come into our body. For some people, when they literally just activate the crown chakra, this was also an experience that I had. Sometimes upon activating the crown chakra, that soul star chakra begins flooding the body. These are gateways. And these are where those downloads tend to come into the body. So when this energy comes in here, it begins to seed its way and work its way through these layers of our body. As we go through the process of self-healing and dimensional activation, we reach the point in which our energy, or we become aware rather, of the level to which our energy extends underneath us, outside of the body, and connects with what we may call the dimensional grid. Some people understand those also as ley lines, or the level to which we are working with this literal grid outline that exists etherically underneath our bodies, nestled within the multidimensional layers of the earth. And so that Earth Star chakra underneath your feet, by my understanding and experience, is one of the primary areas in which we connect to the physical grid, also the etheric grid, but the etheric grid pertaining to our actual Earth environment, the timeline in which we're interacting with ourselves and others on this Earth grid. One of the primary connection points for that is the Earth Star chakra. Sometimes for some people it's a foot or a couple feet or just underneath your feet, extending outside of the energy body. And so for some of you guys that have done a procedure I call manual grounding, in which we're quite literally pulling our energy body down into that timeline, what we're doing, or what we're capable of doing when we connect with the Earth Star chakra, is connect ourselves, seat ourselves more firmly in that timeline or that node connection point. One of the ways you could imagine that soul star chakra, the interactivity, excuse me, the Earth Star chakra interactivity, you know, in your timeline is kind of like the way a needle sits in the groove of a record. When we're able to fully seat ourselves in that groove or in that place, in that sort of, that like connection point with the earth grid, we have a much more firm, a much more stable, a much more reliable connection above and also below. So the Earth Star chakra is really, really important for your timeline positioning. And so continuing to work with these areas will assist your body with integrating its expanding multidimensional sensory system. Each of us has a set of skills we chose prior to incarnating, yet many have forgotten, become confused, or uncertain how to unlock them. By continuing to develop our multidimensional and tertiary, or also called secondary chakra system, those being the soul star, the high heart chakra, the Earth Star chakra. We also have a lot of hand chakras, arm chakras, all throughout our body. By continuing to develop and work with the secondary chakra system, we help ourselves expand into levels of awareness that we have quite literally been taught to be the stuff of magic. You know, abilities to move energy, to extend our consciousness far outside of our body through all space and time. That's a literal ability that each of us have. For those of us that are involved in, you know, remote viewing, will understand that it's quite literally an ability that everyone can develop. And so, as you know, if you're looking for signs of multidimensional chakra expansion in your own life, in your own body, and maybe you've noticed some of these changes over the past couple of years, maybe your intuition has changed dramatically. Maybe you're getting these crazy signals down here in your gut, in this solar plexus area. Maybe sometimes you feel this fluttering in your high heart chakra. Sometimes you feel that energy streaming into your crown through the soul star chakra. You know, energetic sensitivity, expanded intuitive abilities, empathic interfacing. Empathic interfacing, one of the ways we can understand that is, you know, the level to which you're able to feel another person's energy, understand what they're going through, understand what they're feeling. You walk into a room and you're able to empathically interface with the people in that room by understanding and feeling where they are. And what that allows you to do is then change, tailor, alter, protect, extend, project your energy in ways that can create healing, that can create safety. Empathic interfacing allows us to take that energetic temperature of the environment around us and alter our behavior accordingly for the highest good of all those that are there. So along with that, we experience, you know, the beginnings of things like clairvoyance, which for those of you guys that don't know, it's the ability to literally see psychically. Cognizance, which is just that knowing. That was one of the first ones that activated for me, that claircognizance. Audience, which is the ability to hear. A lot of us are experiencing that right now, along with the ringing in your ears that a lot of you guys are getting. For some people, those are frequency clearing, you know, things that are coming into the body that will eventually allow us to begin to hear that tone as a communication. It's an odd idea, but that ability has totally changed for me, where in the past I would hear these wild ringing frequencies. Over time, it began to take kind of a wavelength form, you know, can come in as in, you know, an emotion, an experience, an idea. So clairaudience allows us to hear those energetic frequencies. And before we move on, one of the big signs of multidimensional chakra expansion, excuse me as I take a drink of water here, is the phenomenon of DNA activation. And so some of you guys have had these crazy physical changes over the past few years. Some of you guys that have gone through these spiritual awakenings, you know, you've had these wild weight loss events, your body changed, you started kind of reverse aging. You know, when we really expand the multidimensional layers of our body, you know, our DNA changes. It's a fact. It happens. I'm living proof of that phenomenon. And so when you're able to make certain changes and open up the energy in the body, you will inevitably experience a physical shift as well. So DNA activation, health and body changes, also a really big element. Really big element of that stuff. So let's move on, you guys. Thanks for hanging out.